On the road.
We're burning daylight here.
All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and call the Public Engagement and Development Committee to order. If you could please take your seats and quiet down, please. We have our first approval item, which is approval of the minutes for the meeting of September 26, 2018. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, discussions, or edits to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty, we are moving on to our first discussion item, which is the 2018 midterm election review. Senior Vice President Holmes and Associate Vice President Chris Harrington and Karen Flaherty will be leading this item. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Karen, you're going to start with the state update.
Great. Good morning, Regents. It's my pleasure to start with this item. Quick recap of statewide elections in California. So I want to caution that these general election results have not yet been certified by the Secretary of State, and county election officials can take up to 30 days after the election to complete their canvassing process. California, out of a desire to encourage and facilitate high voter turnout, has a significant vote by mail program, so many of those ballots remain to be counted. It looks like this 2018 election will set a new record for those who chose to vote via the post office. Unlike most other states, California allows for ballots to be counted that are postmarked rather than received by election days. This means that some particularly close races were not determined at the time that we prepared this presentation. So moving on to slide 2, voters in California went to the polls to determine several very important races. All the constitutionally designated statewide positions were up for election. All 80 seats in the Assembly were at stake and 20 in the Senate. That's half the Senate. 11 statewide ballot measures or propositions were up for consideration too. So what's really at stake was the balance of power in the legislature. Democrats have been at or near a 2/3 majority for the past several years. That is at least 54 seats in the Assembly and 27 in the Senate. As for statewide propositions, approval of debt financing for housing and water bonds and a possible repeal of the gas tax were high-profile items. So moving on now to slide 3. So the overarching result is really not a surprise. Democrats are firmly in control of nearly all elected offices at the state level. For instance, all 8 statewide constitutional offices were won by the Democrats. Obviously, Governor Newsom was victorious and shared the story of a UC Merced student in his victory speech. Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis will join the Regents. Lieutenant Governor-elect Kounalakis will join the Regents. She holds an MBA from UC Berkeley. Attorney General Becerra cruised to re-election, as did Secretary of State Padilla, and UC Berkeley alumna Controller Betty Yee was victorious as well. Former Assembly member Fiona Ma was elected treasurer, and it appears increasingly certain that the insurance commissioner will be Ricardo Lara, who will leave his post in the Senate. The final and closest race is for superintendent of public instruction, with Marshall Tuck, a UCLA alumnus, in the lead over Assembly member Tony Thurmond as of yesterday. So that seems like that has turned.
As of yesterday, Thurmond was turning, yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, very close and still up in the air. 1,750. Very good. Thank you. In the legislature, however, we know for certain that Democrats will capture a 2/3 majority in both houses. So the projections initially were for 56 Democrats in the Assembly, but it now looks like there could be from 57 to 59 Democrats, and that would mean between 21 and 23 Republicans in the Assembly. In the Senate, 28 Democrats were projected, but it now looks like there could be 28 or 29 Democrats and 11 or 12 Republicans in that House. So on the slide, I have stated here that several races remain too close to call. That was true at the time that I put the slide together, and it remains true now. As for propositions, voters approved measures authorizing $4 billion in general obligation bonds for affordable housing and $1.5 billion for construction at children's hospitals. However, voters rejected repealing the gas tax, so the gas tax will stay in place. They also rejected a water bond, an $8 billion plus water bond. So the question then is on slide 4, what are the impacts for UC and the regents? We'll have 2 brand new ex officio regents in the Lieutenant Governor and the Superintendent of Public Instruction. We'll have 2 returning regents as ex officios, Governor-elect Newsom and Speaker Rendon. So we congratulate both of them on their election. We're also going to have more alumni in the legislature, UC alumni. New and returning alumni legislators represent a net gain of about 1 to 3 alumni. That means at least a full 1/3 or 40+ members of the state legislature will have achieved a degree from UC. The breakdown seems to have shifted a bit from the projections, as I noted, and we will be happy to update you when we have more final information. I just want to state that the Children's Hospital bond that I referenced before means that UC will stand to gain $270 million in capital outlay funds to be divided equally among our children's hospitals. So that is a positive for the university. What comes next is on December 3rd, we expect all the legislative races to be certified by that time. The legislature is going to convene on that day in an organizing session for the 2019-2020 legislative biennium. We'll be happy to welcome all the new legislators in Sacramento at that time. The president is already in the process of extending her congratulations on behalf of the university, as is Chair Kiefer. And that's it for state elections. I'd like to hand it off to my colleague, Chris Harrington.
Can we just get a question in regards to state real quick from Regent Lansing?
So obviously, we've all been following this. I just want to make sure I have the correct information, especially about, the 2 tight races, though we're calling Lara, I guess, is looking so much ahead. But those are the 2 tight races, and I got, you get these bulletins, whatever, that there were 3.7 million votes yet to be counted that were absentee. So I know they usually fall in line, but is that correct?
So the last time that I checked, there was over 3 million votes that still needed to be processed. So I suspect that that information is correct.
That's a lot. That's an enormous amount of votes. And I know, common wisdom is they fall in line with, the proportion. But do you have, I'm fascinated by this. How much of our population, and maybe I missed it because I was getting my computer all set up, did you say percentage voted? I know it was our highest turnout.
I believe, well, actually for a midterm election, what I was referencing is that's the highest voter turnout by mail. Actually, California lagged the United States in its voter turnout. I believe our voter turnout, the last I checked, was about 43%. So that's actually quite low, although it did exceed the last midterm election.
And how much was the percentage by mail?
80%
of the vote was by mail?
I've got it in my notes somewhere. Bear with me for one moment. I can absolutely check for you, but
that's okay. So you let me know when you know, but it was high.
I believe it's closer to 2/3 that were vote by mail.
So I mean, it just is. I'm not questioning any of the Secretary of State, the definitive things. But it's fascinating, as we've seen nationwide, some of the things that people we thought were winners are changing as the votes by mail come in. And when you have 3.7 million votes out there, the common wisdom is that they do fall in line. And President Napolitano, you know far more about this than all of us combined. But they might not, when you have this big a turnout. Do you have any profile on is there any, I'm sure it's too soon to do studies, but it would be interesting to get a profile on who is the normal person, or is there any profile to people that vote by mail? And I'm just fascinated by this because I do believe that's the wave of the future.
I am happy to put that information together. I think that's something that we can achieve relatively easily. I will say that in California, unlike other states, you can have your ballot postmarked on Election Day as opposed to received by Election Day. And so long as the ballot is received by the Friday following the Tuesday election, it will count. There's also military ballots that come in from overseas and other provisional ballots. such as ballots that were cast where a person didn't know where their polling location was, that are still coming in after Election Day that can
So
be counted.
this is a whole seismic change, not surprising, given, you know, technology, you know, that's going on, and the way I think young people would certainly vote, and certainly I voted by mail, so even older people vote that way. So I'm just curious, President Napolitano, if you have any thoughts on this, because I think nationwide, maybe we'll see some surprises that I don't know.
Yeah, so, you know, the general rule is, you know, that the vote by mail is relatively consistent with the count on Election Day, but we saw that change this election, and we saw a number of races change. For example, the U.S. Senate seat in Arizona, the Republican was ahead on election night, and ultimately the Democrat won. I agree with you. I think vote by mail, for convenience purposes, if nothing else, is the wave of the future. And perhaps in this technology focused state, they can somehow develop a better technology for more quickly counting mail ballots. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Karen, I'm interested in the student vote. And if not for this committee meeting, I think looking at what the UC student turnout was, even if we can break that down by campus, and then we can work with our students about what were best practices on the campuses to increase registration and voter performance by students so that we can aim for 2020 in terms of making that vote, that very important student vote, even more robust.
We'd be happy to compile that information and provide it for the committee.
Definitely, I fully endorse that as well. Chris Harrington.
Thank you. Let me give you a quick snapshot of the federal elections. I know much of this has been covered by the media, so I'll be brief before turning to the impact on California and UC. As Kieran noted, there are a number of races in California that have not been called, and some of them have actually been called in the last 24 hours. Republicans will maintain control of the U.S. Senate and have grown their majority. Senator Feinstein will return to the Senate, where she's an advocate for UC issues, including support for our research and education priorities. The increased Senate Republican majority will be particularly helpful for the administration and Republicans as they continue to pass judicial nominations and fill out the courts. But it is important to note that while Republicans will hold the majority in the Senate by a handful of seats, for most legislation to move in the Senate, leadership will need 60 votes. Now turning to the House. As you know, Democrats will take control of the House in early January. As of now, the California delegation will include 43 Democrats, 8 Republicans, and 2 races that have not been called as of this afternoon. We expect a number of new Californian members, including Mike Levin, who will represent the 49th District, which includes UC San Diego, Katie Hill, who will represent the 10th District, which is the Northern San Joaquin Valley, Harley Ruda, who will represent the 48th District, which includes parts of UC Irvine Health System. And this, going into the 116th Congress, the California delegation will include more than 20 UC alums. I believe this could be the highest that we've had at any given time in the delegation. While the new Congress does not start until January 3rd, it is already beginning to organize. Leadership elections are being held this week in the Senate and with House Republicans. House Democratic leadership will hold their elections after Thanksgiving. Committee leadership and appointments will be announced in the coming weeks. 2 Californians have announced their intent to run for top leadership positions in the House. Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi announced her intent to run for Speaker of the House, while current Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy announced his intent to run for Minority Leader. I was going to say I think that vote's occurring as we speak. A number of our Californians are very well positioned to assume leadership, including chairmanships of key committees and subcommittees in the new Congress, and we'll continue to work closely with them on our mutual priorities for California and the university. So what does this mean for UC in California in terms of our priorities? Divided government is likely to lead to more action including more bills and hearings, but less legislation actually moving across the line. One specific area we expect this to play out is with the FY 2020 budget and appropriations. As we look down the road, bills. We also expect to see an increase in oversight activity by the new House on the administration and targeted federal agencies, as well as an increase in ongoing regulatory and executive actions by the administration. Where do we go from here? I'll get more into this in my next presentation, but UC will be doing immediate outreach to both incumbents and new members to highlight our priorities for the remainder of this Congress and for the next. We'll be engaging in DC as well as at the district level. For our members as well as the incumbents, for our new members and our incumbents, we'll be working to highlight how our faculty and researchers can provide expertise on the important issues the new Congress will be working on moving forward. Happy to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions regarding this item? Chancellor Blumenthal.
Well, just a small point. I note the number of scientists that were elected to Congress, and do you have any predictions on how that might change some of the dynamics?
We think a number of them will angle for specific committees, like the House Science Committee, which I think will make for more robust conversations within that committee. And I think that'll be valuable to the agenda moving forward. House Democrats, when they were last in control of the House, you might remember that they passed a very strong innovation agenda, and we expect that those scientists will play an intimate role in that moving forward.
Great, anything else on this item? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move into our next item, which is P2, discussion on federal update, and that will be led by Senior Vice President Holmes and Associate Vice President Chris Harrington.
Good morning again. I appreciate the opportunity to update you on a number of federal issues, including the status of ongoing negotiations on the fiscal year 2019 budget, what the university is advocating for during the congressional lame duck session, some of the regulatory issues we are working on, and an outlook on our advocacy for the new Congress starting in January. Let me begin with where we are in the current Congress, and particularly the federal budget for fiscal year 2019, which began on October 1st. UC advocates on more than 85 accounts across more than 20 federal agencies and sub-agencies for a total investment of nearly $10 billion in federal education, research, and healthcare programs. Prior to the recess for the midterm elections, Congress completed the action on 5 of the 12 appropriations bills. The final package of bills that passed in September included the continuing resolution to provide funding through December 7th for those agencies not yet fully funded for FY 2019. With about a dozen legislative days until the continuing resolution expires, Congress must now complete action on 7 bills or pass another continuing resolution or omnibus to keep the current government fully operational. On the slide before you is the status of a number of UC's high-level budget priorities. Let me highlight just a few. Funding for the National Institutes of Health is up approximately $2 billion for fiscal year 2019. The maximum Pell Grant Award will rise by $100 to $6,195 for academic year 2019-20. And while not signed into law, the House and Senate bills currently provide increases for the National Science Foundation and NASA, as well as the national endowments. We're pleased with the current trajectory of funding, but our work is not done. Our advocacy continues as we push for the highest funding levels for UC's remaining priorities. The current Congress has a number of issues that it is yet to complete beyond the FY 2019 budget. The current Farm Bill expired on October 1st, with conference negotiations continuing throughout the summer. It's unclear whether a final bill will pass during the lame duck session, or if new bills will need to be introduced in the next Congress. Reauthorization of the Farm Bill is important to UC as it provides critical support for the nation's land-grant institutions, including reauthorization of agricultural research extension and infrastructure programs and nutrition education programs. UC also continues to urge Congress to pass bipartisan legislation to protect our DACA students and staff. If this is to come to fruition in this Congress, it will likely be paired with negotiations around a final legislative vehicle for the FY 2019 budget. On reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, we do not expect the current Congress to complete action on the PROSPER Act or reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. As you are aware, in June, UC joined with the California Community Colleges and CSU to oppose passage of the bill, the PROSPER Act. We expect the House Committee on Education and Labor, under new Democratic leadership in the 116th Congress, to launch an aggressive hearing schedule to inform reauthorization of HEA. The committee is expected to build upon its draft legislation that it proposed in August, called the AIM Higher Act. Separately, I'm pleased that our efforts to continue joint federal advocacy with CSU and the community colleges is expanding. Later this month, our federal offices will begin meeting regularly to discuss opportunities for joint advocacy moving forward. Before turning to the work of the new Congress, let me touch upon some of the regulatory issues that we are engaged on. A number of them are outlined on the slide in front of you, but let me focus in on two. First, as you know, the Department of Education is expected to roll out new Title IX rules after having rescinded the Obama-era 2011 guidance in September 2017. UC is awaiting the draft regulations and will be doing a thorough analysis and will respond accordingly. The draft regulation is currently at the Office of Management and Budget for final review, and UC representatives met with officials there 2 weeks ago. Second, in October, the Department of Homeland Security posted a notice of proposed rulemaking requesting public comment regarding a change to the definition of public charge as it relates to immigration. The proposal would expand the number of federal programs that could potentially lead the government to deem a visa or green card applicant a public charge. UC has already expressed initial concerns that the proposed rule may adversely affect public health and critical nutrition programs. The university is analyzing the proposed rule for its impact on our students, faculty, staff, and families, and will officially respond before the comment period ends on December 11th. Now let me briefly turn to the new Congress. With the midterm elections behind us, we now have a clearer sense of the new Congress and their priorities moving forward. In the coming days, we will be refining our FY 2020 appropriations priorities, fleshing out our advocacy calendar for the upcoming year, and finalizing our advocacy plans. I fully expect a very busy 2019 for the University in Washington. This past year, UC was involved in more than 20 advocacy events, developed numerous issue-driven toolkits, welcomed more than 400 visitors to Washington for advocacy and engagement and agency engagement, and had multiple interactions with every office of the California delegation, as well as the key targeted committees. During the new Congress, we will expand our legislative briefing series and continue our renewed engagement with UCSA and our higher education segment partners, while growing our legislative fly-in program, by which key constituencies, including undergraduate and graduate student advocates, financial aid directors, deans of our graduate students, and vice chancellors for research, as well as others, come to DC for Hill and agency engagement. The work of our campuses, medical centers, national labs, Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and others combine to make a strong impact and add critical voices to the discussion and debates in Washington. On the slide before you are some of the issues we anticipate in the new Congress, beginning with the appropriations process. While our advocacy continues on the FY 2019 appropriations, we are very concerned about the 2020 budget cycle, when sequestration and budget caps are set to return. With sequestration in place, non-defense discretionary programs are set to be cut by $55 billion, and defense discretionary programs are set to be cut by $70 billion for fiscal year 2020. Without congressional action to lift these caps, discretionary programs of importance to UC, such as those in research, education, and healthcare, will be cut. Depending on what is accomplished during the lame duck, the new Congress is likely to quickly renew debate around the Farm Bill, DACA, and as I mentioned earlier, the Higher Education Act, among other issues. In addition, UC expects a number of other legislative issues to emerge, including a funding package to support our nation's infrastructure, NASA reauthorization, and a potential rollback of some of the tax provisions that were passed in the 115th Congress. UCFGR will continue to keep the committee informed of our activities through our monthly reports and are happy to continue to provide resources that can assist the committee members in their advocacy on behalf of UC's priorities. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Associate Vice President Harrington, for the presentation. Are there any questions from the committee members? Well, seeing none, we're going to keep this show on the road. So our next item is P3. It's a discussion, review of California budget allocation, hunger-free campus funding. So while the team sets up, I'll provide a little context. I'd requested this item in consultation with Regent Ortiz-Oakley to discuss about the funding that the state of California provided to address basic needs on the campuses. As we heard from this morning and some of the conversations that we had, this is an important topic, and I think it's great for us to understand how that funding is being used and what's the potential for advocacy and future partnership with the state to continue to address basic needs issues on the campuses. So with that, we have Senior Vice President Holmes and Vice President Holmes Sullivan who will be leading this item. Thank you.
Regent Graves, I'll be kicking us off today with some comments. Good morning again, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on the important issue of hunger-free campus funding and some of the collaboration among the divisions within the Office of the President and students, faculty, staff, and legislators, and others who want to ensure that UC students are food secure. Before I go any further, I just want the Regents to know that we appreciate your interest very much in this topic. It's essential that all leadership acknowledge that food insecurity among college students has been associated with poor health, poor academic performance, and mental health symptoms such as anxiety and depression. So today we're going to delve a little bit into some recent efforts to address food security by the state, which the Office of State Governmental Relations has supported in most instances. Obviously, the real work of gathering information and assessing possible solutions and implementing programs that are establishing a foundation to alleviate student hunger has been a collaborative effort by students, staff, and faculty. And so that is why I would like to introduce Vice President, Student Affairs, Robin Holmes Sullivan, who is going to provide some context about this problem and what UC is doing to address it.
Thank you, Kieran. In 2014, President Napolitano launched the Global Food Initiative, or GFI, to address one of the critical issues of our time: how to sustainably and nutritiously feed a world population expected to reach 8 billion people by 2025 by leveraging the academic research and innovation mechanisms of the university. Recognizing that the university is not immune to these issues, in its first year of the Global Food Initiative, we established campus food security working groups, including students, staff, faculty, and community partners, tasked with coordinating campus food security efforts. Shortly after, in 2015, the Global Food Initiative conducted the first UC system-wide student food access and security survey. And as you've heard several times this morning during public comment, the survey found that a staggering 48% of undergraduate students and 25% of graduate students experienced some form of food insecurity, which is defined by the USDA as reduced food intake or disrupted eating patterns at times and/or reduced quality, variety, or desirability of diet due to limited resources. Responding to this survey, President Napolitano dedicated $750,000 from the UC Office of the President budget to be distributed equally among each UC campus to support student food access and enhance existing food security projects. Then in 2016, UC sought to get a better understanding directly from students by adding food security to the UC's undergraduate experience survey as a question. It became clear that our efforts needed to be sustained. So in 2016 and again in 2017, President Napolitano dedicated another $1.5 million to be distributed among all campuses to continue critical efforts to address student hunger. We know there has been progress, but we have a long way to go. Between 2015 and 2018, UC formalized a 4-part strategy that includes research, prevention, sustainability, and advocacy. Furthermore, the original call to address student food security grew towards student basic needs in recognition of the intersectional relationship between student, economic, food, and housing needs. Today, our UC system is at the forefront of intervening innovative economic projects including CalFresh, skills development, food pantry, and crisis resolution interventions. The impact of our efforts has reached beyond the UC to informing and shaping efforts across the community colleges, California state universities, and college universities across the country. So I'd like to focus for a moment before my colleague Karen talks more about the state's efforts to help support UC students in this regard, to describe how campuses have utilized hunger-free campus funds. Campus efforts have initially focused on coordinating staff and resources for the campus food pantries and related efforts, depending on the specific needs of their students at their campus. For instance, campuses including but not limited to Santa Cruz, Merced, and Riverside have hired half-time and full-time coordinators to address student hunger. All campuses hired student interns to help run programs and committed resources to research on the best ways to address student hunger on their campuses. San Diego, Santa Barbara, and San Francisco have focused on the CalFresh program, among many of their other efforts. UCLA, Irvine, and Davis have targeted their focus on equipment and infrastructure for operating and stocking food pantries, food distribution including during the holidays, and food resources required when students have an emergency, among other goals. And finally, Irvine, San Diego, Davis, Santa Cruz, and Berkeley have all confirmed and either launched or are in the process of launching basic needs centers, where staffing, events, programming, and services will be centralized. So we are grateful for your interest, and I would like to provide my colleague Karen Flaherty with an opportunity to discuss how the state of California has endeavored to support UC students who have basic needs challenges.
Thank you very much, Robin. So at the same time that the issue of food security was being elevated nationally and at UC, the state legislature and the governor became supportive of these efforts as well. We're grateful for their support, and we have used it to build pipelines from state programs that flow into the campuses and resources for our students. So as an example, a bill requiring the California Student Aid Commission to provide written notice to recipients of Cal Grant Awards who qualify for participation in the CalFresh program became law. UC adopted a support position on that bill, AB 214, and our office testified in support of the bill in policy hearings, as did several UC students and students from other segments of higher education as well. Another bill requires UC on-campus food vendors to participate in the Restaurants Meals programs, allowing students to use CalFresh benefits to purchase meals at those on-campus facilities. So together, the state and UC are building both awareness of resources available and introducing an element of portability for those resources to better meet students' needs. The legislature also provided funding through the annual budget acts of 2017 and 2018. In 2017, the state provided UC with $2.5 million to be distributed to those campuses that had the Hunger-Free Campus designation. Hunger-Free Campus is defined as having a dedicated campus employee for letting students know how to enroll in CalFresh. It is also defined as having on-campus food pantries. All undergraduate UC campuses now have an on-campus food pantry. And also capability for students to donate their meal credits and also to apply to receive donated meal credits. So as I mentioned, UC has this designation on all its campuses, and therefore all campuses were available for that funding. I am pleased to say that UC has supported the efforts of the state to better understand and address student hunger in a variety of ways. We've brought campus experts on food security to Sacramento to testify in a legislative policy hearing on AB 453, the Hunger-Free Campus designation we referenced, and that ultimately was cited by the Budget Committee in recommending $2.5 million that we discussed. Then the state continued to support UC student hunger efforts with a $1.5 million appropriation in the Budget Act of 2018. and UC also strongly supported that allocation. In fact, at one point, that allocation was for $5 million in budget deliberation, and that is the amount that we actually supported in the conference committee. So that is just a summary of some of the state support and what UC has been doing to advocate for this kind of state support, and we just look forward to having a discussion with you about this.
Thank you to our presenters. I'm going to open up the floor for discussion on this item. Region Designate Weddle.
Thank you, Chair Graves. Thank you for this presentation, and as someone that oversees the use of the Hunger Free Campus Money at UCSD, I can't emphasize enough how helpful it's been the past 2 years. My question is regarding 2019-2020. I noticed there's no line item in the UC budget for basic needs services. There is some financial aid funds, which is great, but the kinds of services you just referenced aren't reflected in the budget. So what is the plan for ensuring that these services, such as CalFresh super clinics, food pantries, skills-based workshops, continue in 2019-2020?
So we will see where the legislature wants to go with respect to funding for basic needs. I suspect that they will once again be an interest in providing one-time funding. In general, when it comes to our budget for current operations, one-time funding is largely reserved for deferred maintenance, which is a very large ask that we have in the one-time funding category. Other elements of one-time funding, such as we had undocumented student support services that we advocated for in conference committee this last time around, as well as the student hunger funding that we also advocated for, some other student support services, one-time money that we advocated for. As for it not being incorporated into the current budget, there is continuing funding that is made available for at least another year through the Office of the President budget. That budget is finalized in July Regents meeting, if I've got that correctly, for the separate Office of the President budget. So I would say that our efforts are continuing, that the campuses are planning to continue these efforts, and we will continue to be open to hearing what the legislature has to say and what the governor has to say about what level of funding they might want to support.
And if I could also add, Regent Weedell, the campuses all along have been working very diligently to formalize the food pantries and the staffing and other type of infrastructure within their own budgets as well. And so the additional money is absolutely needed, but some of the basic services will continue on because the campuses have worked to formalize that across their budgets.
Great. We have a question from Faculty Representative Bafnani.
It's a comment, actually. I just wanted to say that I'm very heartened by everything that's being done. And I wanted to put on record that I'm very heartened that undergraduate students are giving their meals, to other students. So it's making the UC and the campus more of a community. So I just wanted to make that comment and sort of comment also that the undergraduate students are working within this idea to help their peers or their colleagues or whoever. So thank you for everything you've done, and I think it's absolutely brilliant to use that idea of using up unused meals. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bafnani, and I would just add our thanks to our students who have advocated so capably and so well. And they do have the support of faculty and staff as well in those efforts.
Staff Advisor Clemo.
Thank you, Chair Graves. Actually, in one of my other day jobs, I serve as chair of Second Harvest Food Bank in Orange County, and I know we've seen at the food bank tremendous work over the last few years working with the campus. We know that there had been some challenges getting partnerships done, so it might be helpful. I would make a suggestion if the system could work with the umbrella organization of food banks, the California Food Bank Association. I might have those letters out of order. But I also know anecdotally that changes in recent federal policies have driven a surprising and significant amount of food to the food banks that they weren't able to necessarily process as quickly as they'd like to. So there may be some opportunities to expand existing programs beyond just students, but to staff or faculty who live in these high income areas that may have to stretch their pennies further. So just that's another resource to look at, and they may be another partner with the legislature working with the statewide food banks.
Thank you.
Chancellor Hoggood.
Robin, we've struggled to do this on our own campus, that is to assess the effectiveness or adequacy of the program. And I was just wondering whether there was any systematic attempt to do that, or whether you were aware of any best practice on another campus, whether the tactics that are being used are the most effective. How much of the problem are we dealing with? How much is still to be done?
Right. And so what we have so far, and we hope to have more data so we can have a longitudinal look at this, is to continue to ask those questions on our various surveys. And so we would hope to see, since we asked it last time, we'll ask it during this next administration, we would hope to see a decrease in the amount of students who are reporting that they are food insecure. So that's one way of us knowing how well our programs are actually working. When I was on your campus several months ago and just meeting with students kind of just informally, there seemed to be a perception by the students that what they were doing, kind of getting back to what you were saying as well, Kumkum, that they were part of the solution, and they were dedicating some of their own food or money or points back to. So even though you're a graduate campus, it's happening on your campus as well. And the students were very aware that there's ways that they could help their fellow students who are in need of that. And so we hope to see over time that those numbers start to reduce somewhat.
And if I recall correctly, we've already seen a movement, and when I was looking at the data, that you might want to talk about.
Yes, yeah, we have seen that overall the programs that all the campuses are doing are really making a difference. And what I'd want to add as well is that even with the food pantry, it's not just about a student just coming in and getting food. First of all, the food that's available on the food pantries are high quality food. So students have a lot of selection. It's food that's very nutritious and very good for them. But they're also swiping in, and so we know which students are utilizing the services. And then there are other social supports that are there. So when the student comes in to get food, if they want to, they can sit down with a social worker and they can start to get down perhaps to the bottom of, well, what is the issue that might be leading to their food insecurity? So it's not just about picking up food, it's actually the programming that goes along with that, which is why it's important to have the resources to have staff that are actually there, not just food available to the students. And all the campuses are moving toward that model, which I'm heartened by as well.
Okay, I have Regent Designate Simmons and then Regent Lansing.
Thank you, Chair Graves, and fantastic work that we're doing. It's a two-part question. One is, we still heard a lot about this in public session. So one, how are we getting the word out? Are we partnering with students to do so on each of the campuses? And I'm sure it's going to be campus specific. But then on the other hand of that same piece, and is there a stigma associated with it? And if so, how do we destigmatize it so that those who are in need seek the services and that are offered to them once they do find out about them? So it's, when do we get the word out and talk about it more, but how do we also help them talk about it more?
Yeah, I think that the campuses are making efforts to definitely get the word out more, and we're seeing that by the utilization rate by students. But that could always be improved, and more can be done. You probably know that there's been a system-wide Global Food Initiative group that has been putting out recommendations and reporting on what the campuses have been doing. And so I think the more that this is talked about, the better results that we're definitely going to see across the campuses. In terms of the stigmatization, again, when we get back to what we were mentioning, when students feel like they're part of the solution, it really does bring down that sense that something is wrong, that I'm having to seek out these services. And I just want to remind us that UC has a very strong mission regarding access. We value it, and we're successful at it. So 40% of our students are Pell-eligible students. That means students are poor. And if you start off poor, and you're in college, you're going to remain poor while you're in college most likely. Your status is not going to change. So it's probably, even though it's very concerning to all of us and we need to pay attention to it, it's not really surprising that we have a high percentage of students who are food insecure because they don't have a lot of resources. And part of what we are all proud of is that when they do graduate, their social mobility goes up, and they are better able to take care of themselves because of that UC degree. But while they're in school, they're still poor. And that's part of the reason why we see the numbers that we see and why we have the programs and services that we have put in place.
If I may, I would say that I was at the UCSA board meeting along with some of Robin's colleagues from Student Affairs and my colleague from Budget Analysis and Planning, David Alcacer, on this past Sunday at the Merced campus. And we couldn't help but notice as we were entering this beautiful and growing campus that the food pantry was very prominently hosted in a nice public space. And it did feel like there was less of a destigmatizing. It was just sort of a sense that you got that it was sort of integrated in with the broader community. It was in a new, very beautiful facility in a high foot traffic area. And it seemed to kind of pull away from an element of some sort of shame or something associated with that. So just an anecdote.
If you get a chance to visit one of them, I would suggest you do so. My colleague, Jelena Griffin-Desta, was recently on the Irvine campus and visited and asked to visit as a student. So she swiped in, did the whole thing, and her comments were it was like going to a grocery store. And so that some of that kind of approach, I think, helps with the stigmatization issue that you brought up.
Great, so we have Regent Lansing, Student Advisor Wong, and then Regent Designate Weddle, and then we're going to close the list for the sake of time and so we can move on to our next item. Regent Lansing.
So I just want to, first of all, compliment you, Regent Graves, on drawing this even more to our attention and on setting up the special committee, which will dig deeper into it, which I think is really important. I guess just two very minor things. First of all, there's a lot of I've visited the food pantry, and I do think it's really, on one campus I should say, but it was really very inviting, and it does help to destigmatize. But I think that there are a lot of videos out there about people who have experienced food insecurity when they were younger, and a lot of programs, and you might look to some of them. I know Viola Davis led a huge campaign, which was very effective. And I encourage our film students to look about doing some videos that will help, that will get out into the campus, because, I mean, that is the way we consume information today, that will give examples of why there's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's certainly not your fault. And then I guess we have the funding, so I understand that, but do we work with not-for-profits that are also doing things like this, that are supplying meals and you know, or do we not need to? I guess I'm asking that just as a general information.
Well, the campuses partner with their local food banks that are close to the universities, and so that partnership is there. But as you're bringing up, last thing I think that's important is that UC won't and can't solve this problem by itself. There has to be partnerships with the nonprofits and with the state, which is why we have such strong CalFresh programs, for example, in order to bring all the resources to bear. This is not something that the university alone would be able to solve.
So in Los Angeles, for example, there's a whole consortium of restaurants that are working with huge not-for-profits to, you know, feed the homeless, but to feed anyone who needs money. So, I mean, who needs food. But they're really very, very active and very heavily supported by the restaurant chains themselves. And I think, you know, at least some of those not-for-profits that some of us around the table might be involved in, we can then literally refer them to you as well. Is that, or is
yes,
that?
That would be great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Regent Lansing. Student Advisor Wong.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I have a comment I would like to share. So I'm heartened to hear about these efforts, and it's great to see this happening at my own campus. I've visited the Berkeley Food Pantry. I have friends who go to Food Pantry. I've seen the foods that they offer. And I would like to encourage an emphasis on convenience in providing food to students in the future. What I mean by this is that students oftentimes either don't have the time to go shop, don't know how to cook, don't have clean kitchens to cook in. A lot of the burden around food for a student is the mental burden, not just the financial burden, or not just the financial burden of getting food. I live in a rather large student complex, and one of the things I've seen while I've lived and interacted with these students is that sometimes we'll have a fully stocked pantry, a fridge full of fresh vegetables and fruits and everything, and they'll go get a cup noodle because they either don't want to spend the time cooking, or frankly, I don't think they have the time to cook. So I'm pushing things like meal plan vouchers or subsidized meal plans, and prioritizing providing foods in food pantries that are easy to make, like pastas or things that don't require much processing, I think would be very effective in addressing food insecurity on campuses in the future.
Great. And our final comment from Regent Designate Weddle. I know there's some other folks who want to talk on this issue, but that is why we're forming the Special Committee on Basic Needs, so we can take a deeper dive. I apologize, but do for the sake of time. And Chair Kiefer wanting us to finish up, we got to move on. So Regent Designate Weddle.
Thank you. Thanks for the plug for the special committee. I'm just going to end on a comment. It's a suggestion. So as we talk about destigmatizing these resources, which I'm very supportive of, I think we need to recognize that when we do destigmatize, it increases usage, which also causes the need for more funding. So I'm really hopeful that we do see more advocacy with the state this year. And if we are to engage in that, my recommendation is to broaden the scope a bit beyond Hunger-Free Campus to incorporate a broader basic needs lens so that we could start pushing for some housing and security resources as well.
Great. So thank you very much for the presentation. Our next item is P4 discussion, community outreach and impacts at the Santa Barbara campus. That will be presented by Senior Vice President Holmes and Chancellor Yang. As our presenter set up, just for the sake of time, we're going to have to push P5 discussion Regents engagement plan to next meeting. Just know that from now until January, because January is when the budget advocacy will start, you will definitely receive correspondence from staff about how this committee will be engaged in that process. We really look to you all to be the leaders in the leadership of that. So, Regent Lansing.
When I read it, I just want to be sure, at least to get this out there, that the advocacy day in Sacramento was not tied into the Regents meeting. Was that a typo or whatever? Or do I have it all wrong? Because that, I mean, it was like the week afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but we can
All right,
follow
so
up on that
I think
information.
my point is I think it should be tied into, we should meet, we shouldn't have two separate things.
Okay, we'll definitely follow up with you on that.
Because you're not going to get anyone to go to ours.
Definitely. Okay, now the floor is to our presenters.
So carrying on with our tradition, we are happy to welcome Chancellor Yang and representatives from the Santa Barbara campus to talk a little bit about some of the community engagement efforts that are underway there.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to highlight a few of the many ways UC Santa Barbara is supporting both our local community and the state of California. With a history dating back 127 years, our campus has close ties to the history, prosperity, and vitality of Santa Barbara County, as well as that of neighboring Ventura and San Luis Obispo counties. Established as a manual training school in 1891, and subsequently becoming the Santa Barbara State Teachers College, which provided the teachers for the area. UC Santa Barbara became part of the University of California system in 1944. Deeply rooted in community and service, UC Santa Barbara has flourished into a preeminent research university that has tremendous impact not only in the region but also in the state of California and far beyond. Voted the best place to work for the second year in a row by readers of the Santa Barbara Independent, we are the largest employer in the county and serve as an economic engine for the Central Coast. Our students are engaged members of the community, volunteering approximately 70,000 hours of community service each year to a wide spectrum of programs and initiatives. These pictures show our students coaching our local youth, collecting soil samples, and volunteering in Montecito after the mudslide. Here's a big thank you from Oprah. As an intellectual powerhouse with 6 Nobel laureates awarded in the last 20 years, we are known for our contributions of innovation. Our campus patents 90 new inventions, and spins off half a dozen new startup companies each year, most of which stay in the Santa Barbara area. Forbes magazine ranks us among America's most entrepreneurial university, with number 20 overall and number 5 among public universities. As part of our support of entrepreneurship, we help sponsor the Goleta Entrepreneurial Magnet Program, providing business support for local companies through a program called Innovation Workplace. Our California Nanosystem Institute brings together innovators from the campus and the community to collaborate and test new ideas. And the newly opened Wilcox New Venture Incubator provides space for startup companies. We want to thank the efforts of President Napolitano and legislators led by Jackie Irwin for the financial stimulation provided by AB 2664. Many of our faculty members undertake research that benefits the local community. For example, our Department of Economics created the Economic Forecast Project since 1981 to provide the local community with information on economic, demographic, and business trends in the region. It has become a vital part of the business community, providing research and analysis for 37 years. UC Santa Barbara also has a long history of responding to environmental disasters. Following the 1964 oil spill, we established one of the earliest departments of environmental studies, and in 1994, we established the Brand School of Environmental Science and Management for master and PhD degrees. More recently, when thousands of gallons of oil spilled from the pipeline onto Refugio State Beach in 2015, Professor of Earth Science David Valentine and a team of colleagues collected data that is critical to the ongoing response and the cleanup efforts. We also manage 7 natural reserves that are living laboratories for scientific research and for public outreach, including classes for children in K through 12 and opportunities for visitors. As one example, our 5,800-acre Sedgwick Reserve hosts more than 1,000 school-aged youth and 2,500 adults through organized outdoor education programs. In addition, the North Campus open space was recently reopened to the public following the comprehensive ecological restoration of a former golf course. The project increased by 10% the average of native wetlands in Santa Barbara County. UC Santa Barbara also has numerous educational outreach programs that have supported tens of thousands of K through 12 students, community college students, and members of the public. We are also engaged in outreach work with veterans through our Interdisciplinary Humanities Center and the Center for Science and Engineering Partnership. Before focusing on just 3 of the many impactful programs at UC Santa Barbara, I want to take a moment to thank our regents. All of you have supported programs one way or the other and participate in events on campus of UC Santa Barbara. As an example, here you see Regent Makarachin and his wife Barbara with our Guardian Scholars. They are responsible directly, indirectly for more than $1 million funding for foster youth on the Santa Barbara campus and hosting annual heartwarming banquets. All of our regions have been tireless advocates for our campus and the community and the UC, and we so appreciate your leadership. Let me now just give 3 quick examples. One of our efforts is about entertaining and inspiring our community. We have an arts and lectures program. Founded in 1959, UC Santa Barbara's Arts and Lectures is the largest and most influential arts and lectures organization between Los Angeles and San Francisco. Arts and Lectures presents more than 100 events every year, from critically acclaimed concerts and dance performances by world-renowned artists to talks by influential authors to film series on campus and at venues in the Santa Barbara area. For example, our program in current years has included Yo-Yo Ma, Malala, Joan Baez, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Murray, Madeleine Albright, and many more. With a mission to educate, entertain, and inspire, Arts and Lectures also oversees an outreach program that brings visiting artists and speakers into local classrooms and other venues for master classes, open rehearsals, discussion, and more, serving K-12 students, college students, and the general public. Just this past year, Arts and Lecture performances and lectures were attended by almost 100,000 members of the greater Santa Barbara community, and our outreach program created opportunities for 19,000 students and community members to interact with artists and performers off stage and in local school. Before last Christmas, until early January, we had a Thomas Fire and a mudslide. During the devastating Thomas Fire last December, which until recently was the largest wildfire in California history, and the tragedy of subsequent debris flows due to a rainstorm, in Montecito in January, we opened up our campus to provide shelter and comforts to those from the community whose lives were disrupted by those natural disasters. In addition, our staff and faculty whose lives and families were also affected, contributed their time and resources, and opened up their homes and hearts to people displaced by the events. Our campus served as a Red Cross emergency shelter, provided a safe shelter and food for an estimated 1,000 displaced residents over the course of the fire, including one of our beloved professors. May I just share with you a short story? This is about Professor Emeritus Karl Zaitowski, affectionately we call him Mr. Z. And here is the bed of Mr. Z. And when my wife and I went to the shelter, we found him there. This was his bed. And when he retired about decades ago, he donated large scholarship money to the university. We thought he would be able to afford to go to the hotel, but he lived in a shelter. So the following day, we brought some food to see him, and he was gone. And the people surrounding them told us, he said, this old gentleman has so many students, they came, everybody wants to fight to invite him to their home to warm his hearts. That's why he disappeared. So I took a picture of his bed. And this early Sunday, I heard the news that he passed away. So I thought I'd use this opportunity, use this forum to be in his memory. Thank you. And after the final were postponed due to the fire, with no students to feed, we organized the pickups of prepared foods from various dining commons for delivery to the emergency shelter. Fruits and vegetables were given to the food bank of Santa Barbara County. Our campus also housed 100 law enforcement personnel from California Highway Patrol and the National Guard, who came to Santa Barbara to help with evacuation, security, and eventual search and rescue efforts. Our own UC Police Department extended their patrol area into the local community to help with security and the search and rescue efforts following the debris flow. UC Santa Barbara's researchers were also highly visible in the community, helping to explain to the public dangers involved and the impact on the environment, the region's economy, and the health and welfare of local residents, providing analysis and answers. My last quick example is about improving K-12 education in our community. This is about a local Harding School. In 2010, the historic Harding School formed an unprecedented partnership with UC Santa Barbara, becoming the Harding University Partnership School, a place of joy and education for 200 elementary school students, mostly from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds. The university school is an international baccalaureate program, making it the only Santa Barbara elementary school using this highly acclaimed approach that emphasizes 21st century skills and international mindedness. Here to share more about this partnership is Lilia Garcia on my far right, Director of Outreach at the Gavers Graduate School of Education, who manages and coordinates all the outreach effort at Harding University Partnership School. Before Lily speaks, I also wanted to introduce, on my right, our Associate Vice Chancellor for External Affairs, Joe Longbrake. So Lily, please.
Actually, it's good afternoon, not morning anymore. Thank you for having me here. So I wanted to share some work that we do at Harding. We started, as the Chancellor mentioned, our work in 2010, and that partnership has continued to flourish over the past 8 years. In order to focus our energies, we have a committee composed of the Dean of the Gewurz Graduate School of Education, the Harding Principal, Veronica Binkley, and other key personnel from both Harding and GGSE, which is the Gewurz Graduate School of Education. Many of the things that we have focused on are issues that the principal and the school have brought to our attention. So I think that's unique in a partnership where usually you have researchers coming into a school site and saying, well, this is the latest and greatest. It's truly a partnership, and there's a sense of community there. So some of the areas that we focused on are multi-tiered systems of support in emotional learning, multi-tiered systems of support in balanced literacy, and community engagement. So around those three areas, we have both faculty within GGSE and partnerships on campus that address each of those issues. So because I know we're limited in time, I just want to share one story with you, and this is from the principal. So our counseling and school psychology or clinical school psychology faculty have been really engaged in Harding from the beginning. So here's a story. A first grade student with a family history of special education began the year eloping, making noises in the classroom and spending much of his day under furniture. The teacher was especially impacted when the student called her a loser through a hand signal and then ran out of the room. After a few weeks of this behavior, he had taken over the class and made it difficult for the teacher to do her job. He had literally gotten under her skin. It was so bad that it was affecting her home life. With the support of the UCSB doctoral intern, we tried to support the teacher with strategies to mitigate this child's behavior, which was a challenge for her as she had become completely disruptive. She and the whole class were experiencing anxiety. It was this doctoral intern who came up with a solution that completely changed the dynamic in the child and in the classroom. She developed an SOS group text to come to support the child immediately. The text group included principal, various counselors, herself, and the office manager, and the school psychologist. After about 1 month of behavioral intervention, both in and out of the classroom, the child and teacher are both thriving. The school has replicated this process with other high-need students. And this is something I witnessed because I spent a lot of time at the school site, and we were in a meeting together where they were actually talking about individual students and how they can support them, whether it was with general education intervention or Tier 2, which is one-on-one, or special ed. And in this meeting, because they were all specialists, they ended up receiving that SOS text, and they were on it within a matter of seconds. Somebody left the room, the issue was addressed, and the classroom wasn't disrupted for a long period of time. So it's just been a real privilege to be able to be part of that school community. I've been able to learn that the teachers are dedicated, our faculty are dedicated, and the parents are dedicated to their students. So thank you.
So with that, thank you, Chancellor Yang and guests, for the presentation. This is just another example of the amazing community outreach and engagement that our campuses are engaging in. So thank you for that. So I open up to the committee for any questions or comments for the presentation.
Yeah, I might also to add that during the Thomas Fire and the mudslide, I was in communication with President Napolitano daily, maybe nightly, get a lot of advice and support. I want to say thank you.
We have Regent Lansing, then Faculty Representative Bhavnani.
Well, just this, I know we're pressed for time. I mean, I've visited the Santa Barbara campus many times, and under your leadership, Chancellor Yang, and all of the support people and all of you who spoke today, and the students, you are just beloved in the community, and everybody talks about what a part you are and how your outreach programs and your engagement and all the programs, and there are so many more, are just extraordinary. So it's really just a huge congratulations. You make all of us proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Lansing. Faculty Representative Bhavnani.
This might end up sounding like a praise everyone session, because this is a comment as well. I'm from Santa Barbara. That's my campus of origin. And I just wanted to point out that Harding School is a school that no one wanted to send their children to. No one. The local residents were forced into it if they couldn't go somewhere else. And so this also is part of the whole transfer idea, I think, that you work right from K through 12 to persuade students, to show students that the UC is a place for them. So I actually want to commend everyone again, although of course it is my campus, so you can take it with a grain of salt, for this, because it's actually changing some of the socioeconomic access that people have. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And any other questions or comments for our presenters? Well, again, thank you, Chancellor Yang and your team, for the amazing work you're doing in the Santa Barbara community. Really appreciate it. Thank you for our presentation. And with that, just one item of business. As a reminder, we are going to lunch, and then at 12:45, the Academic and Student Affairs Committee will meet in here at 12:45. I think I just messed all that up, what I was saying, but I think you understood what I was getting at. And with that, this committee is adjourned. Oh, well, Claire Holmes wants to say one thing before we officially.
Yeah, thank you. So on the agenda was to discuss the Regent engagement plan, so we'll move that, carry that over. But you do have the materials, so I would just call your attention to that. There are opportunities in there for you to do advocacy for us, recognizing that you're very busy, but also making it easy for you, and we'll talk more about it. In addition, there are some brochures at the table with some key facts and messages that, thank you, that we'd like you to just have at your disposal. And again, we'll talk more about it in January.
And I'll officially close with this. When we found out that Regent Ortiz-Oakley wasn't attending and trying to figure out who was chairing, it was a little bit of madness. But being the first student regent to have had the opportunity, I can confirm that the university is still standing. So thank you all. We are adjourned.